You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during
Hey, we're live and we're not sure what's going on. Our intro didn't start, so Cindy and I are here sitting going, what's going on, folks? And yeah, you're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News, and we're getting the full blooper scene.
It's already been a tech day.
Yeah, really. Just before we went live, as far as I know, we're live. That the intro didn't start up, and things were a little wonky just before we went live. Thought everything was settled down, but I guess not, eh?
I got like 2 seconds of the intro, but that didn't start. Ow, my cat's on my lap. Until like 13 seconds of being on air.
Yeah.
And then it just stopped and it was just dead.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Gremlins in the system. What can I say? Here, let me try it. See if we can. There. Let's see if I can get it to work. Let's just see what happens.
Okay, we'll see what
happens.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
the views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning. It worked. Just so everybody know, it's August the 7th too, by the way. All right, so now we know that worked. I don't know, maybe it was just things were getting caught up. I haven't got a clue.
A glitch somewhere, that's for sure.
Glitch somewhere, for sure. All righty. So we'll get started on with the news. Before we get into the actual news, what's new and exciting on your end? And we should update people what's going on with you.
Everything's new and exciting on my end. I leave Monday morning. I won't be here for 6 weeks. So I will see you fine folks after today in 6 weeks. I'm heading out to British Columbia. And when I return home, I will have 2 more facilitation certifications under my belt. I will be a breathwork facilitator as well as a combo medicine facilitator, which is a frog medicine for anybody that's curious.
All right. So, yeah, I just checked the date. September the 25th is when you would be your return scheduled date. I haven't noted over here. Either I'll be running some shows by myself, or as Steve has filled in sometimes in the past, and there may be some days where he is willing to get up at 6:30 in the morning, and being that he's out west, right, and
yes.
do the news with me. So
yes.
All right, I'll get the first story lined up there. I did have it there before we suddenly had some problems and
when we were playing.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Coming to us from Global News. I have to scroll back up. Protest held at a Nova Scotia RCMP detachment over Indigenous-owned cannabis stores.
Organizers behind a protest held at a Nova Scotia RCMP detachment say police action against Indigenous-owned cannabis dispensaries represents a continued attack on the Mi'kmaq sovereignty. Thomas Durfee said a crowd of more than 100 people gathered at the RCMP detachment in Millbrook First Nation to protest Thursday.
Yeah. You were breaking up on me, but I think I've got it caught up now. Dufresne said in an interview Sunday, the peaceful protest involved free lobster, music, and speeches from matriarchs in the community. We're just here to assert our rights. It was very emotional to see a lot of the women in our community come and speak out. We all had the clan mothers there, the water protectors, many prominent voices in our community, Dufresne said.
Millbrook's First Nation Council member Chris Gugu told the crowd Thursday it's important to rally behind the shop owner, who he says is operating a Micmac truck house, which is a traditional trading post. Now, Gugu says the community has asked the RCMP not to enforce the Cannabis Act as it works to develop its own independent regulations for selling cannabis.
Yeah. We're here to support our band member here who exercises his rights by having a treaty truck house, which is constitutionally protected because we have a right to trade, Gugu said, referring to the term used for trading posts in treaties signed by the Mi'kmaq and British Crown in the 1700s. The RCMP said in a statement that police executed a search warrant on an illegal cannabis storefront on Wednesday and seized a quantity of cannabis and unstamped tobacco.
Police say the man who was arrested was released and will not be charged, but that investigators anticipate others will face charges as evidence is collected. Charges are also pending against other people related to the investigation. The RCMP statement also noted that a small group of protesters gathered outside without incident while police were on site.
The RCMP reminds residents that the only legal way to purchase cannabis in this province is at a licensed location, which here in Nova Scotia, it's at the liquor store. Dufresne, who operates 5 truck houses that sell cannabis alongside local art, disputes that Indigenous-owned and operated cannabis sales can be considered illegal given the historic treaty.
He says we have all these treaty protections so that we can go and come as we please and trade to the best of our abilities. They talk about setting precedents. They talk about regulations. They talk about getting permissions. They talk about this being illegal, but that's really a huge defamation of our culture that the Canadian government and the RCMP is continuing to perpetuate.
Yep. Are they ever?
So there you go. It's been a while since I've seen a cannabis protest like that, which is good to see because I can remember going to some in Toronto at the Toronto Police Station over the Raise Compassion Centers.
And they did more than that. They had a meal put on. They had more besides lobster because some people just don't eat lobster, can't eat lobster. They did have musical acts there. Everybody that was of age received a free sweatshirt, like a pullover hoodie. They really tried to get everybody, and they were pink hoodies because of the women, right? So they tried to get everybody looking in unison. It was very peaceful. It was very beautiful. There was chants and drums and beautiful Indigenous people, and I hope that they at least got people thinking.
Yeah. Hopefully, that's maybe they don't get the end goal that particular day, but spreading the information, the knowledge to others is part of it, right? So.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Next story is ready.
Coming to us from a Psychedelic Alpha, Germany establishes the EU's first psilocybin compassionate access program. Go Germany.
All right, yes. Germany has become the first country in the European Union to allow legal access to a psychedelic under certain conditions prior to regulatory approval through a newly established compassionate use program, which has received the blessing of the country's drug regulator, the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices. 2 facilities are now able to offer psilocybin to adults with treatment-resistant depression.
Those 2 clinics, the Central Institute of Mental Health, also known as Z Mannheim, and the Ovid Clinic in Berlin, expect demand will far outpace capacity. There, psychiatrists will admit qualified patients to receive Filament Health's botanical psilocybin candidate PEX 010 in the context of a broader psychiatric care protocol. Psychedelic Alpha spoke with Gerhard Grunder, wish I could do that accent really well, who submitted the successful application and will lead the rollout of the compassionate use program and to learn more about this development.
Yeah, this new compassionate use program is in some respects similar to pathways that exist in Switzerland and Canada, where patients can access certain psychedelics in exceptional circumstances. Yeah, we know about the SAP program. In Switzerland, which is geographically European but not a member of the EU, a system for allowing the legal use of psilocybin along with MDMA and LSD in certain situations was established in 2014. The drugs, medicines, remain unapproved, but physicians can apply for an exceptional authorization from the Federal Office of Public Health on a patient-by-patient basis.
I've got two cats playing outside my door, sorry. The number of patients accessing psychedelics through the carve-out has increased substantially in each of the last 5 years, but remains relatively modest in absolute numbers. In 2024, Swiss regulators granted just shy of 700 exceptional authorizations for patients to use LSD, MDMA, or psilocybin. Psilocybin was the most popular, representing 322 of the approvals. In Canada, healthcare practitioners can also apply for a kind of exceptional use permit on a case-by-case basis, as we covered in Bulletin 203. However, the administration burden associated with such applications, as well as a lack of infrastructure to deliver psychedelic therapies, has limited uptake, according to Health Canada's data. What's more, approval rates have dropped substantially between 2022 and 2024 and take forever to hear.
Oh, big time. Now, it says here, according to Health Canada, there are those problems. The administration burden, there's a lack of infrastructure to deliver the psychedelic therapies, and has had limited uptake. Well, why doesn't Health Canada do something to solve those problems? Just a question.
Yeah. I mean, like they have through Therasil, which is the Health Canada approved training for therapists only. You have to have a license in therapy or nursing or doctor or something to be able to qualify to take this course. And they constantly have full classes. There are constantly people graduating, getting university, getting their license, running to Therasil. And I mean running. They are fighting over these positions for education. And then they graduate and everybody sits still because nobody's approved to take it. And everybody is too scared to, serve those who aren't approved through the SAP program.
Yeah.
They're scared for their license, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's Health Canada knows there's a problem. They know how to, they should know how to solve it, but
would be nice.
To do so, it seems. All right, back to the story. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, these are two of the most similar programs to Germany's. Pre-approval pathways do exist elsewhere. Where?
As has been reported, Australia and more recently New Zealand has created pathways for certain psychedelics to be prescribed prior to market approval. While numbers remain small in Australia, with fewer than 100 patients receiving psilocybin or MDMA in the first 18 months of the programs, they are growing. In New Zealand, meanwhile, that just one prescriber is authorized to offer psilocybin, but that looks set to expand following the recent publication of guidance for other practitioners.
Yeah, in the U.S., compassionate use or expanded access is limited to just one case when it comes to psychedelics. In 2019, the U.S. FDA granted permission for a small expanded access program, EAMP1, for up to 50 patients to access MDMA through Lykos Therapeutics, which is developing the medicine. Other than that, no compassionate use has been permitted for psychedelics in the United States. What makes Germany's psilocybin program unique? it's similar in some respects. Germany's new compassionate program, use psilocybin program, there we go, has some unique.
A key feature is that, unlike in some other systems where regulators like Health Canada are the decision makers, the German program allows licensed psychiatrists at one of the two sites to decide whether patients should be included in the program. This decision cannot be made by any formal regulatory or governmental authority, Grinder told them. While psychiatrists may decide on patient participation, Grinder remains the responsible person for the program. This means that it will not be necessary to wait for patient-by-patient approval from a regulatory authority, which could represent a significant improvement over other programs, eliminating a key bottleneck in the patient journey and empowering healthcare professionals to make decisions as opposed to bureaucrats.
And even if those bureaucrats are medical people, imagine letting the psychiatrist or the doctor that's been working with that patient for years and who knows that patient help that patient make the right decision.
Yes.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine. Yeah. What's more, permission need not be sought out for every single dose, Grundner told us. Our protocol allows us to repeat the treatment in case of non-responsive to a first dose or to maintain the treatment effect, he explained. In terms of that protocol, Grunder said that it was provided to BFARM and includes a very strict rules, especially with regard to safety monitoring. The dosing sessions, for example, will be monitored by 2 trained healthcare professionals, including one physician, he told us. Yeah, this is where it gets expensive.
Yeah, those rules cannot be changed, he emphasized. They cannot be relaxed. For now, the program is limited to CMH and OVID. Grinder told Psychedelic Alpha that there is the option to add more sites in time, but that starting with 2 sites allows them to establish procedures. It says that we are assuming that there will be lots of interest from other sites, and they have to qualify according to the criteria that they were communicated to the authorities.
In terms of patient eligibility, patients with TRD, which means those who have not responded to at least 2 modern antidepressants that were administered for sufficient duration and at a sufficient dose. How long is that, and what's the dose? Must show that participation in psilocybin trial is not possible.
Well, he wouldn't share specific inclusion and exclusion criteria with them. One of the concerns that participants might conceal conditions relevant to safety. He says that, in general, those criteria are more flexible than in clinical studies. Aside from site expansion, might the program grow to include other indications, they ask? Grinder says that the EU regulations stipulate that such programs are only possible in indications for which there is significant evidence and at least 1 ongoing phase 3 trial. Therefore, the only other possible indication would be to generalized anxiety disorder, but only with LSD.
In terms of scale, the group does not anticipate more than 50 patients in its first year due to limited resources. We are allowed to treat more, Grundiner clarified. Other countries' pre-approval access programs have faced issues with accessibility due to high costs, but this group believes that they will be able to offer psilocybin therapy in a much more affordable manner.
Grinder says that the medicine itself has to be provided to patients for free under the terms of the program, and that the treatment will be part of an overall treatment plan that includes general psychiatric care at both facilities. It will therefore be covered by health insurance of the patients. Nice.
In terms of data collection, the group says that it is very interested in scientific monitoring beyond the detailed reports it is obligated to provide to authorities on the program's progress. In addition to a variety of psychometric scales that will be used to measure outcomes, Grunder told us, there will also be accompanying research that will be site-specific That will include imaging studies at CIMH, for example. We are, of course, very much interested in sharing this data, he said.
Now, the CIMH and OVID appear well equipped to lead this effort. The OVID's medical director, Gerard Grunder, oversaw the phase 2 study of psilocybin for TRD in the country. Its close affiliate, the Mind Foundation, runs a psychedelic assisted psychotherapy training program.
A lot of this, a lot of the rest of this is just about CIMH, Ovid, and filament.
Sounds good. I know where you're going with it.
Yeah. Wow, I think they wanted to be in competition with Marijuana Moment.
Yeah, we got enough of them today. We got some of them we're going to be cutting off as well. So, thanks for the love, Eugene, as well. All righty, here we go. We'll get the next story lined up, which is yet talking about Marijuana Moment.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment, government-backed study from Japan finds no evidence that cannabis is a gateway drug.
Yes. We feel that. We understand what they're saying. A new study looking into patterns of drug use in Japan casts further doubt on the notion that cannabis is a gateway drug, concluding that cannabis use in the country usually comes after people first use alcohol and tobacco, and that they rarely go on to use other substances. Published this month in the journal Neuropsychopharmacology, reports the research, which authors describe as one of the largest and most significant studies on community-based cannabis users in Japan to date, also found that nearly half of the respondents who reported cannabis as their third drug did not go on to use other substances afterwards.
Cannabis use in Japan typically follows alcohol and tobacco and rarely leads to further drug use, concludes the report, which was supported by the Japanese Clinical Association of Cannabinoids and the government's Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. These findings challenge the gateway hypothesis in the Japanese context. The research acknowledges that cannabis is often labeled a gateway drug, but it notes that strong causal evidence for progression to other substances is limited.
Its findings suggest that rather than cannabis use itself leading to other drug use shared with vulnerabilities involving factors like age, educational background, and social economic status, and strict drug policies may shape these patterns. The study. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay, the study consisted of an anonymous survey conducted in January of 2021, asking 3,900 people in Japan who had used cannabis in their lifetime about other substance use. Researchers then analyzed the data to assess the chances of people using other drugs after trying cannabis. Rather than implying a casual gateway effect of cannabis use, authors wrote, results highlight the importance of considering the broader life context in which substance use occurs. Social determinants such as age cohort, educational background, and socioeconomic position appear to shape patterns of substance progression independently of the pharmacological properties of cannabis. Are you there?
Authors' assessment of the responses found that odds 0.08 and 0.8% respectively, suggesting low possibilities of progression. While the result did show some correlations between lifetime cannabis consumption and the use of some other drugs, such as methamphetamine, and the 12-person team said that the findings failed to establish causality, the core claim of the gateway drug theory.
Our survey revealed that 10.4% of cannabis users reported experience with methamphetamine, a figure considerably higher than the estimated lifetime methamphetamine use prevalence of 0.5% in the general Japanese population, the report says. This suggests that cannabis users may indeed have higher exposure to other illegal drugs, although it does not establish causality. Instead, the study points to so-called common liability theory, under which the observed order and relationship between substances result not from one drug directly leading to another, but from shared underlying factors such as genetic, physiological, and social influences, and predisposed individuals to multiple substance use.
In Japan, the team explains strict cannabis regulations may contribute to a situation where cannabis and other illegal drugs circulate within the same black market, increasing users' exposure to various substances. Thus, it may be the regulatory environment rather than the pharmacological properties of cannabis itself that creates a gateway effect. Yes. One finding that further supports that theory, notes the report, are lifetime cannabis users, relatively lower rates of use of legal substances such as benzos and prescription drugs in our sample.
Authors did note some limitations in the study. For example, the self-selective nature of the online survey on social media and the recruitment of people who reported specifically lifetime cannabis use rather than the use of other drugs. To overcome these limitations, they wrote, future large-scale cohort studies involving the general population will be essential.
But at least based on the results of the current survey, the new report ends. We did not observe patterns that support the gateway drug hypothesis. So when we just end it there.
Oh, that's a perfect spot to end it. Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah.
In the end of this study, good.
I saw the next line. It says, meanwhile, blah, blah, blah. So I knew it was going on to other stuff, right? And, you know, the gist of the story was with what we covered. So, all right. We'll go on to our next story, which will be our last one before we go to break. And here we go. It is ready.
Here we go. Coming to us from StratCan. This indoor cannabis lounge in Toronto challenges smoking laws and clinical research standards. Woo-woo.
Why indoor lounges in Canada still face legal hurdles, with one notable exception. If you live outside Canada's 8,891 kilometer long border, you might not be familiar with the country's cannabis laws. In short, the only thing consistent about them is how inconsistent they are.
Yep. Across the country, you won't find cannabis cafes like those in the Netherlands, nor privately owned lounges offering consumers a place to smoke in a sealed, air-conditioned environment. While cannabis is legal, consumption spaces remain largely prohibited. This is due to federal and provincial regulations that restrict public consumption and prohibit licenses for recreational cannabis lounges. Health Canada does not issue permits for cafes or consumption lounges. Instead, the only permitted spaces must operate under a research exemption, a path taken by Club Lit.
I'm going to throw in here that before legalization, the city of Toronto had at least 10 vapor lounges in it. And at one time, well, if you've got issue 34 of Treating Yourself magazine, turn to page 106, and you'll find the 17-page report on the lounges in Toronto. Yes. Now, they opened in 2024. Club Lit is opened in 2024. Club Lit is in the heart of downtown Toronto at Yonge and Dundas Square. Club Lit operates as both a licensed cannabis research facility and a consumption lounge. It remains the only fully legal indoor smoking space for cannabis in the country, thanks to Health Canada's sanctioned research exemption. In June of 2025, Club Lit launched a new observational study designed to examine cannabis in real-world social environments. Research Director Tanya Goldfield said the study aims to capture the nuances of cannabis behavior outside traditional lab settings. And I think they were doing something on music. Was the last I had heard.
Yeah. I find it, they're the only, this is the only legal one. I thought, anyway, doesn't matter what I thought. I was obviously wrong. Real world settings like Club Lit allow researchers to capture contextual and behavioral patterns that can't be reproduced in a sterile or solitary environments, said Goldfield. These include how social context, music, and setting affect consumption, mood, and even product selection. Without real-world research spaces, our understanding of cannabis use remains incomplete and skewed toward narrow lab-based outcomes.
All right, before we get into the next paragraph, do you see anybody in the picture that you recognize?
Oh, let's take a look.
I'm
Who
looking.
is all in here? We've got to know some of the people. There are some familiar faces. I recognize this mohawk going on over here.
Oh, yeah.
The gentleman in the hat back here that's coughing with his hand in front of his face has been
yeah, I see him there. I see him there to the left.
Yeah, he looks kind of familiar.
All right. Club Lit's ability to operate a research lounge granted them an exception from the Ontario Smoke-Free Ontario Act, first introduced in 2005 and amended in 2017 to include cannabis and vaping, which bans indoor smoking in public places, similar laws exist in other provinces. And that's when the lounges started to close down. Attempts to open cannabis lounges without specific exemptions may result in a few knocks at the door from the provincial regulatory bodies such as the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario or the British Columbia's Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch.
By functioning as a research site rather than a commercial lounge, Club Lit can provide an indoor setting for cannabis consumption legally. In 2023, the Ontario Chamber of Commerce called on the province to allow privately owned lounges, an idea that Doug Ford quickly rejected.
I'd love to click on that link to see why, but we'll check out that during the break. With Club Lit receiving access to operate as a research lounge, Club Lit's founder, Al Shefsky, hopes that this study in particular will address what he perceives as gaps in cannabis research. He says, the study was created to generate robust, ecologically valid data on real-world cannabis use, something Canada's research landscape has lacked. Early studies focused on sensory testing in controlled environments.
By tracking trends in demographics, consumption methods, and perceived outcomes, this study builds on that foundational work and delivers insights that simply can't be captured in clinical or home use settings. Notable cannabis studies such as University Health Network's 2023 Real World Evidence Medical Cannabis Trial at Toronto General Hospital are often conducted in clinical facilities.
Club Lit argues that these environments fail to reflect the proper context in which cannabis is often consumed, socially, communally, and comfortably. Goldfield emphasized the need to reframe how cannabis research is approved in Canada.
Cannabis consumption is often social, contextual, and behavioral, yet Canada's research and regulations treat it like it's a pharmaceutical, but not really because it doesn't have its own DIN and it's not covered. Right. She said, the study is designed to provide ecological valid insights into how adults consume cannabis in a safe, compliant lounge setting. The study includes 27 questions focused on participant demographics, preferred products, and consumption methods, as well as comfort levels by consuming cannabis in a lounge environment.
There you go.
Well,
now,
in October, we're just going to have to go down and be part of the experiment.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I've known about this place since it's open, but I've never gone there. And is it opened all the time? Is it open like regular hours?
I don't know, but I do know that we have a friend, a mutual friend in Toronto that like she knows the lounges and she visits them all, and we could probably lean on the queen of cannabis and find out what the hours are.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
I don't know. I'm not sure which other lounge you're referring to when you're going through the story there about being legal, but yeah.
Amsterdam, the new Amsterdam out in British Columbia. It's been rated for selling cannabis, and it used to serve infused drinks and whatnot, but it operates under a business license, and so I don't know if it's just grandfathered in and ignored, or if it's actually legal. It has under the same contexts.
Yeah, I know. Like the lounges that were in Toronto, they operated under a business license as well.
Yeah, and Vapor Central, it operated as research too.
Okay. Well, the other lounges weren't listed as research at the time.
Yeah.
So they didn't, because obviously that wasn't even available at that one time. But I know that towards the end of Vapor Central, there was something to do with research and stuff like that going on. So, all right. Well, it's time for us to take a break.
Yes.
Time to medicate, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes and 43 seconds. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back, and we got 4 more stories to bring you. Oh, where'd you leave? I lost my screen there. It went blank. Yeah. It's one of those days, right? You can tell the way things got started. All right, we got 4 more stories, as I said, and we'll get started at it right away. Here we go.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Opening legal cannabis dispensaries is tied to a huge drop in opiate-related deaths, analysis finds.
Yes. Counties that have cannabis dispensaries see an average of 30% fewer opioid-related deaths compared to counties without legal cannabis shops open, suggesting a substitution effect away from prescription pills and heroin towards the plant-based treatment, according to a new data analysis. In a Washington Post piece on Wednesday, Harvard University economics student Julian Berman used data from the University of Michigan that identifies dispensary locations in the county level to compare opioid overdose trends over 10 years in jurisdictions where cannabis became legally available compared to those without regulated access.
The theory is straightforward. Making cannabis more available and reducing its costs could induce people to shift from opiates, which are super dangerous, to cannabis, a significantly safer alternative, Berman said. Existing opiate users seeking pain relief can choose cannabis instead of heroin, especially in counties where recreational use is legal and access is easy. And new potential users might never turn to opiates at all if they could get cannabis instead. Other factors were taken into account to support the conclusion, including comparisons of opiate mortality rates in counties within a legal state where some allow retailers to operate and others have chosen to opt out.
Berman says this kind of variation helps rule out other state-level changes, such as expanded access to naloxone, a drug that can reverse the effects of an overdose as the main cause of the drop in deaths. On average, the opioid death rates following the establishment of cannabis dispensaries declined more sharply in the immediate years after the opening compared to dry counties. But from years 5 to 10, there's a more precipitous effect, with an average rate of 27% fewer opioid deaths in jurisdictions that have cannabis doping after a decade.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, you see the chart right there that have they down.
There are some limitations to the analysis, including challenges with the enormous number of messy business records maintained in the University of Michigan dataset that could have misidentified certain businesses. And it's possible counties that were assessed could have separately implemented other programs to address opiate use during the timeline that was studied, he noted. Still, the fact that the drop in deaths shows up right after the first dispensary opens and not before strongly suggests that the opiate users do shift to cannabis, at least enough to stop overdosing, he wrote.
He added that while studies have shown that cannabis isn't entirely harmless, it's much safer than heroin. Heck, it's arguably safer than alcohol. If the dispensary down the street can get people off opioids, public health wins, even if overall cannabis use goes up. Here, here.
Absolutely. Relatedly, a recently published study found that among drug users who experience chronic pain, daily cannabis use was linked to a higher likelihood of quitting the use of opioids, especially among men. I'm walking, talking proof that you can do it. Researchers for a separate federally funded survey recently found an association between state-level cannabis legalization and reduced prescriptions for opiate pain medications among commercially insured adults, indicating a possible substitution effect where patients are choosing to use cannabis instead of prescription drugs to treat pain.
Which is what I did. A study published late last year found that legalizing medical cannabis appeared to significantly reduce monetary payments from opioid manufacturers to doctors who specialize in pain, with authors finding evidence that this decrease is due to medical cannabis becoming available as a substitute for prescription painkillers. Hey, there we go. I'm gonna shut that story down. We're repeating some stuff.
Yeah, we'll start talking for the next hour just on the one story.
Yeah, and it's all very valuable information. It's showing it over and over and over again that cannabis can be a substitute for opiates. As you mentioned, that you were benefited from it, and I benefited from it as well.
Yeah, that's why people like Neil Magnuson started groups like the Cannabis Substitution Program. And it's why people like Dan Burchett are out there fighting trying to get the government to pay attention and to see the worth of what it is.
Yeah. There's a few across the country, people that are involved in doing it, and I've heard stories of success. So
all kinds of them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, on to the next story.
Coming to us from Cannabis Health. First confirmed case links medical cannabis product to rare fungal infection.
Let's find out. A cannabis patient using medical cannabis to manage the side effects of chemotherapy developed a life-threatening fungal infection after using a contaminated product, says a peer-reviewed case study published in the journal Clinical Infectious Diseases. According to the researchers, this is the first study to definitely link an infection to a pathogen found in medical cannabis, highlighting potential public health risks, particularly for immune-compromised patients. Hey, that would be me.
Okay. Goody. Cryptococcus neoformans, a potentially dead environmental fungus, was identified at the site of the infection and in the cannabis flower they had been using, with a genetic match between the two, confirming the cannabis as the source of infection. The 46-year-old patient, who had refractory multiple melanoma blood cancer and had previously received a stem cell transplant, was using medical cannabis to treat chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting.
She was registered medical cannabis cardholder in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania and had only purchased products including dried flower, distillate, vape cartridges, and wax from the licensed dispensaries. The woman developed the symptoms consistent with fungal infection and was diagnosed with this Cryptococcus neoformans laryngitis and meningitis. She was treated with antifungal medication, but was later admitted to hospital with septic shock, where she developed pneumonia and died from cardiac arrest.
According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, Cryptococcus neoformans is caused by breathing in fungal spores from the environment and is more common in people with weakened immune system, such as those with HIV/AIDS or undergoing chemotherapy. Researchers carried out a range of tests, including whole genomic sequencing on strains of the infection taken from the patient's spinal fluid, and were able to culture the same fungal strain from the patient's cannabis product, making it possible to verify the cannabis flower as the source of the infection. It is believed to be the first time researchers have been able to demonstrate that the same strain of the infection was present in both the disease site and in the cannabis product. Oh my God, they have spent hundreds of years and gajillions of dollars trying to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the authors wrote that this is the first known case where we can definitely link a serious fungal infection to a medical cannabis product. It raises urgent questions about microbial contamination and the safety of these therapies, especially for immune-compromised individuals.
Medical cannabis has been shown to be effective in the management of cancer-related symptoms such as chronic pain and nausea from the chemotherapy, with one recent meta-analysis suggesting that support for cannabis use in oncology research now outweighs opposition. However, previous case reports have linked cannabis use to invasive fungal infection, with one large health insurance database study finding it was associated with a 3.5-fold increase in risk.
While the C. neoformans infections are rare, the cases raise concern about the lack of standardized microbial safety testing for medical cannabis. I believe that they do here in Canada. I know that they have to do testing and stuff. The researchers have regulation of cannabis products on the sale in the U.S.
Absolutely. Although medical cannabis is often sold under the auspices of a dispensary, providers and patients should realize that products are not regulated pharmaceuticals. This is what the author states. In many states, private labs are responsible for medical cannabis testing, but they do not follow standardized protocols. With growing demand for non-opioid painkillers and increased medical cannabis usage, there is clear need for rigorous clinical studies and greater regulation of cannabis products. Here in Canada, a number of licensed producers have ended up falling to the fact that they were using the wrong things, not doing the right testing, ended up getting people sick. And, they're paying out millions and millions and millions of dollars in settlements. And, it shut some of them down. And, one or two of them have been able to regroup and redo their things. And they're still trying. I mean, Organigram is still, they're out there, they're doing their thing, and they're still desperately trying to regain everybody's trust. So, but, if you're not careful, if you're not flushing properly, if it's around stuff that's contaminated, if you're in a moldy building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you could be ruining your weed and making people sick.
Yeah. And, as I said, this is the first known case where they've connected it. People have been consuming cannabis, growing their own cannabis and stuff for decades. I'm not saying this thing isn't a concern, but it doesn't seem to be widespread. Where it seems to be like what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh well, I can't find it, but I will later when we're doing something. I won't be able to say it. So, but it's not good.
Okay,
let's just see. What we can do is keep an eye on things. Yeah. So, here we go. Next story. It's ready.
Coming to us from 420 Intel, Pennsylvania bill to require $250 monthly for cannabis.
Is this what I believe it is? A recently introduced Pennsylvania bill could reshape the way injured workers receive treatment and financial support for medical cannabis. House Bill 1766, unveiled on Monday, proposes that Pennsylvania employers be required to reimburse injured workers up to $250 per month for cannabis-related expenses. This proposed legislation aims to make medical cannabis a more accessible and affordable option for injured employees seeking alternative pain management treatments. The Pennsylvania bill addresses a long-standing issue. Medical cannabis use has been legal in the state, but coverage for its costs under workers' compensation has remained.
Yeah. Key provisions of the Pennsylvania bill. According to HB 1766, only workers registered with the Pennsylvania Medical Cannabis Program would be eligible for reimbursement. In addition to monthly reimbursements, the Pennsylvania bill also mandates that employers or the insurance carriers cover the costs associated with obtaining and renewing a medical cannabis identification card. Currently, the state charges $50 for a cannabis patient ID card, and certification fees charged by Department of Health approved physicians range from $100 to $350. These costs can be a barrier for many injured workers, especially those unable to work while recovering from job-related injuries.
By including these associated costs in the bill, lawmakers aim to relieve the financial burden placed on injured workers and promote safer alternatives to opioids and other pharmaceutical treatments. I like this bill.
Yeah.
The Pennsylvania bill. The Pennsylvania House until September the 22nd. So any committee discussions on or legislative action will be delayed until the fall session begins. However, the bill's introduction marks a significant step forward in aligning state policy with the evolving needs of workers who use medical cannabis as part of the therapy.
I think this is amazing. This Pennsylvania bill could set a precedent for how other states approach cannabis reimbursement under workers' compensation. As the opioid crisis continues to affect communities across the country, more lawmakers are considering medical cannabis as a legitimate lower-risk treatment option for chronic pain and injury recovery. If passed, the Pennsylvania bill would bring clarity to employers, insurers, and injured workers while acknowledging the medical value of cannabis. Yes, it's a progressive step that reflects changing attitudes towards healthcare and labor rights.
Yes, very good story. And you go back to the marijuana moment story where they talked about in the counties and stuff where they have the stores. how, deaths and stuff like that have all been reduced. And if we got that one. There's just so much out there.
Yep.
It's a crime not to, make it more accessible for people in those conditions, dealing with those problems. So, all right. Here we go. Next story, and the last story of the day.
Last story of the day. Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Microdosing LSD can help treat separation anxiety in dogs. New case study suggests.
Here's a little puppy. Here we go. A new case study in the Journal of Veterinary Medicine and Science suggests that a very small dose of psychedelic LSD appeared to ease a dog's severe separation anxiety, reducing destructive behavior and shortening the duration of vocalizations. Author of the report says the results suggest potential therapeutic efficacy of microdosing LSD, or that's 1-CP-LSD, in managing canine anxiety. Though they acknowledge that further research is needed to validate the findings, they point out that the anxiety is prevalent in dogs, affecting an estimated 1/5 of the canine population.
The subject of the new study was a 13-year-old female dog of mixed breed, whom researchers had previously administered a single microdose of 1-CP-LSD, a semi-synthetic analog of LSD with very similar psychoactive effects, to observe the effects of the drug in the canine species, as no literature existed on the matter, the paper says. Results of the earlier experiment indicated the drug was safe and effectively reduced anxiety in the animal, authors wrote.
The current study evaluates the dog's separation anxiety and how it changed over the course of the month-long LSD treatment regime. Using a points-based scale, researchers says the dog's anxiety score significantly decreased from 29, which is severe, to 14, which is moderate, after the treatment. A reduction in anxiety levels was observed, characterized by decreased destructive behavior and shorter durations of vocalization. Authors wrote, this improvement was sustained 1 month following treatment, although vocalization frequency increased. So I'm assuming that's barking.
Yeah. Treatment consisted of administering 5 micrograms of 1-CP-LSD, or about 0.338 nanograms per kilogram of body weight. And just so people know, a quote-unquote hit of LSD is 100 micrograms.
Okay. This is a 20th of that.
What's that?
This is only a 20th of that.
Yeah, that, yeah. Orally to the dog every 3 days, which amounted to 10 total doses over the course of a month. The substance was administered by disguising it in a piece of ham and delivered orally to the animal at breakfast time, the report says.
Since no pharmacokinetic studies of LSD have been conducted in dogs, the selected dose was extrapolated from human data, acknowledging potential interspecies differences in substances, metabolism, and effect, according to the authors. They added that no adverse effects were recorded over the course of the treatment.
Authors from the Universidad de la Poms de Gran Canaria and Associación Certificana WHO. Anyway, these places in the Canary Islands acknowledged that the study's key limitation was its lack of placebo-controlled blinded design. The team nevertheless implemented methodological precautions meant to reduce bias, they said, such as assessing anxiety through validated behavior scales and evaluating both the owner's subjective observation as well as objective indicators such as vocalization duration and destructive behaviors. They also noted that the use of psychedelics in non-human animals could raise questions about informed consent and the ability of animals to comprehend the nature and purpose of the study.
Yeah, they don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
The animal doesn't. Yeah. While this study aimed to explore the potential therapeutic benefits of these substances, it is crucial to acknowledge the potential impact on animal welfare. They wrote, the long-term effects of repeated psychedelic administration in animals are unknown, and further research is needed to assess potential adverse effects. Results of the new pilot study were nevertheless promising, the report concludes.
The administration of 5 nanograms of 1-CP-LSD once every 3 days over a 30-day period was associated with a reduction in severe anxiety to a moderate level in a female dog, with the effect persisting for 1 month post-treatment, it said. Adding, however, that given the exploratory nature of this single case study, these findings should be interpreted with caution. Yeah.
While the team's focus on LSD is novel in a variety of ways, there's been growing interest within the scientific community about the potential treatment alternatives for pets and other animals, including with cannabis. For example, the National Animal Supplement Council promoted a study last year that it says shows CBD is safe for long-term use in dogs, a significant finding given emerging research that cannabis can effectively treat conditions such as anxiety and certain skin diseases within canines.
Another 2024 case study found that cannabis appears to be a viable alternative treatment for dogs suffering from common skin diseases, especially if they experience adverse side effects from conventional or modern steroid therapies. A separate study late last year, meanwhile, found that giving dogs a dose of CBD could help counteract the ill effects of accidental THC consumption. Absolutely.
Yeah, the authors of that report say reducing the cost of treating THC toxicity is especially important given that cases of accidental cannabis exposure have been increasing in recent years, and that the inability to afford emergency services is a leading barrier to assessing veterinary care in both the United States and Canada. All right, let's just get her down there. We've got the main thing covered when it comes to the microdosing of LSD to our puppy friends. And they mentioned that earlier study that we thought that we didn't know whether this is the same study or not. This is further research.
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of thing. I mean, like, it's not like you can ask dogs to step up to be experimented on, but somebody got it in their head, and it's nice to see the ongoing research. Separation anxiety, especially for dogs, over cats, is huge, and it can be literally destructive, as they say. Destructive tendencies come out of the dog because they're scared and they're going through anxiety, and if we can help them feel better for the hours that their humans are working or out or otherwise occupied, I think it's a good research to be doing.
Yeah, likewise, I agree. All right, that's it. Got all the stories covered. Just a reminder that Cindy will be
see you in 6 weeks. Yeah, I'll see you in 6 weeks. Bye.
That's right. September the 25th is what I think I got written down is when Cindy returns. And in the meantime, Steve will fill in here and there, and I'll do reports by myself. So, all right. Other than that, that's the news report for today. Thanks to Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, At-Eze.ca. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And we got off with a bit of a rough start this morning, but we got her done. Yeah, well, we're going to see if the outro is going to play when as we leave, as we go away. All right, as I always say, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.